You're listening to the Sass Says podcast. I'm your host, Christy Rocha, also known as Sass. I identify as a woman, a wife, and a mother. That should tell you a lot already. And over the last few years, I've learned the value of talk therapy. I have seen how my inner work not only enhances my own well-being, but also my marriage, my parenting, my relationships. And in fact, you wouldn't be hearing this right now if it weren't for the work I've done. My mission is to debunk the misconceptions and stigmas around what therapy is and who it's for. Let's normalize working on our mental health and seeking help when needed. We've all heard of self-care, self-help, and self-love, but do you often wonder how to actually make it all happen? I do. You'll hear strategy-based conversations with professionals, as well as inspiring and validating stories from women who are just like you and me. Think of this podcast as the weekly therapy sessions you didn't know you needed, with a dash of sass, a lot of vulnerability, and me, relentlessly asking, but how? Hello. All right. Dr. Alli Cain joins me today. She's a chiropractor and the founder of GrowCo. In preparing for her own postpartum recovery, she realized that no one should have to be a doctor with 10 years of education to know how to properly take care of her body after baby, and thus GrowCo was born. GrowCo is a postpartum rehab program and community focused on preventing, reducing, and/or resolving symptoms that women have been made to believe are inevitable consequences of childbirth. GrowCo offers an app. Dr. Alli is personally involved in it on a daily basis to prescribe progressive healing through exercise that targets your core, pelvic floor, and total body. GrowCo also offers a one-day seminar to teach other chiropractors, physiotherapists, and healthcare professionals the GrowCo method. In this episode, we discuss the hows and whys behind postpartum rehab. We discuss the GrowCo way and how the app and programs can be utilized in whatever phase of the postpartum journey you're in. We discuss the connection between mental and emotional health to physical rehab. We also have a delicate discussion around postpartum body image. And I also, of course, ask Dr. Alli just how she takes care of herself, all while being a CEO, spouse, and a mom of two. So as usual, stay tuned after for my final thoughts. Here's Dr. Alli. Hey, Dr. Alli, thank you so much for being here with me today.
I'm so thrilled to connect. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're just chatting that we have kids literally the exact same ages, one to the day and the other within the month. So we totally get each other.
Like instant connection when you find somebody that is going through the exact same stage of parenthood as you. So exactly. I feel like I know you. We've just met.
I know. And I'm working on shifting my headset. It's been one of those days. But that being said, oh my goodness, I've been sort of immersing myself fully in your work for the last couple of days, just preparing for this. And I would love to hear, in your words, why you're doing what you're doing.
Because we've got to.
Yeah.
If we don't take action, if I don't take action, if my colleagues don't take action, nobody else is going to do this work, which is the work to raise the standard of care for postnatal women around the world. Mm-hmm. And that's the easy answer. As I've been on this journey, there's so many levels to it, which is I am so thrilled to connect with you from a mental health standpoint, because as I say, there's no physical health without mental and emotional health. And we need to be looking at the entirety, the complexity of a mother, of a postnatal person. And it really starts with filling the gap in healthcare, which to date, it's been like an army of people working throughout your pregnancy, and you have appointments and people are holding the door for you. Let me get your bags. You give birth, and all of a sudden it's like your pelvic region is a black hole. Never think about it again. Mm-hmm. Normalizing all of the aches and pains, and really just like, get on with it. You're a mother now. What are you complaining about? And you and I know that there is so much more support that can be given to women.
Yeah. I was just having this conversation with someone yesterday. She asked me, what ticks me off about some of the, just some, like, she was asking me about my mission as a whole and what ticks me off about society or the quote unquote industry of motherhood and this and that. And I said exactly that. Moms, once that baby comes out, it's like she's doesn't exist anymore. It's like she's turned into this vessel that just popped the kid out. Now we're done. Now all the postnatal visits are all at the pediatrician. It's all about the baby. They pretty much just ask you, are you going to hurt yourself or your baby? No, bye. And your OB is the 6-week checkup, like and I don't know about you, but with my second during COVID, that was over FaceTime. That appointment.
You got a FaceTime. Yeah, I had a phone call. Yeah, for sure.
And it's like, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
It feels like more than ever, the work that we're doing with GrowCo and anybody else who works with women throughout pregnancy and postpartum, it's needed more than ever. And things were not great pre-COVID, and they got bad pretty fast. And instead of focusing on the negative, because it's really, really easy to slip down this, why aren't they doing this? Why aren't they doing that? And again, like levels to it, it goes deep. I wanted to ask myself, and I challenged my colleagues to ask themselves, why are we not doing more? Why are we not standing up to fill this gap? We are perfectly equipped as, for myself, a doctor of chiropractic or a pelvic floor physiotherapist, to, at that 6-week mark, be a handoff. Because I agree with you. The 6-week checkup is not all it's cracked up to be. And when you experience it, it is just like you explained. It's a mood screen. Maybe they're going to ask you if you want a PAP. There is typically no actual physical checkup, right? I certainly didn't get one. And then you're cleared for exercise and sex, right? 6 weeks, you're cleared for exercise and sex. And for me personally, because this all came about, GrowCo came about when I was pregnant with my first, with Logan in 2017. And I kind of knew what to expect because I worked with so many women. And truthfully, I thought to myself, well, I don't want to be another one of these women that just, you never see at the gym again. They're always have some kind of injury or ache or complaint. And if I'm being honest, I wanted to be able to skip again and run again without peeing my pants. And I thought to myself, okay, you've been in school for almost a decade learning about the human body, right? I'm perfectly equipped to heal ankle sprains, low back pain, migraines. But when it came to postnatal women, I was taught nothing. People who go to medical school, chiropractic school, physio school, there is very little education beyond asking your patient, have you had your 6-week checkup? But when we think about what's happened to a woman's body throughout pregnancy and then throughout labor and delivery, whether it's vaginal or C-section, the injury or the damage to the female body that can happen is not really that different from an anatomical or cellular level to an injury anywhere else. So we can extrapolate and use literature and apply basic tissue healing science and rehabilitative science to a woman's body after she's given birth, so that my goal specifically is to intervene early enough so all of these common complaints of motherhood that crop up 5 years, 10 years, 20, 30 years after a woman has given birth, the people that I work with and that work with GrowCo, they never experience, or if they start to experience, they're equipped with the tools to recognize that as a sign and symptom that needs to be dealt with. And that's really the North Star for GrowCo, is getting this information out there so that more women recognize that, yeah, you're going to have your 6-week appointment, but that is where healing begins, not where it ends.
Yeah. I want to ask you, what's behind the name of GrowCo?
That's a good question. I think about it a lot. It came to me, it was growth, right? So you think about the easy thing, which is pregnancy. You're growing a human. But then you're growing as a mother. There's a saying that goes, when a baby is born, so too is a mother. And there's a lot of growth that happens physically, mentally, and emotionally as a mother. And then the co, it's like grow in company, is because I am on this mission, and yes, I founded this mission, but I cannot do this mission alone. I need to align myself with people like you, with the hundreds of ambassadors, GrowCo ambassadors that we have around the world, and really the mothers and the families that partner with GrowCo. They also become advocates in their community too. So it's this ripple effect. By you signing up to do GrowCo for yourself, you then, if you have a friend who's suffering from, let's say, incontinence, and they're just like, oh, it's normal. My mom, my aunt, my friends, they all pee their pants. Well, actually, I know it's common, but it's not normal. And did you know you can do this, this, and this to fix it, right? And that's how we make change.
Okay. I love that. I love that. So you've mentioned a few just within the conversation, but give me or anyone listening, maybe someone who hasn't had kids who's listening, maybe someone who's pregnant, like what are some of the specific, I guess, ailments that you're treating that are either we can do things for preventatively or treat once they've happened? Like give us some of the specifics having to do with the body.
Okay, absolutely. So the number one thing I wanted to touch on first is called Diastasis Recti, which is abdominal separation. So when you are pregnant and you grow your cute little baby bump, your body at the midline. So if you picture your six-pack muscle, right in the middle is a piece of connective tissue that stretches, and it has to stretch throughout pregnancy. That's a normal adaptation. So when you give birth, 99.9% of women are going to have diastasis recti. And it takes time to heal, just like anything else that would stretch on the body. But what can happen is, due to one thing or another, if the body doesn't heal that diastasis, you can have an abdominal separation that persists. And when it persists, there's all sorts of different ailments that can come up. Low back pain, incontinence. I hate to say it, but it resonates, like the mom pooch that a lot of women complain about, where you look pregnant even though you gave birth a year ago. That can be a clue that you have diastasis recti, which is another clue that there's some form of dysfunction, whether it is in the abdominals, maybe it's in the pelvic floor, maybe it's even in how you breathe. And that's something that we address. A lot of our GrowCo doctors will do a baseline assessment soon after you've given birth, so we know where you're at in terms of abdominal separation, and then we can monitor to make sure that it doesn't persist and you're on the proper timeline of healing. Now, there's a lot of fear surrounding diastasis recti, and I really want to kind of break that down. It's nothing to be scared of. As I mentioned, it happens in near 100% of pregnancies, but it's when it persists for months and even years after you've given birth, that's when it becomes a problem. But it is a problem that is highly fixable when you align yourself with the right rehabilitation.
Interesting. Yeah.
Another thing that is really, really common in new moms is peeing their pants, and not even new moms, right? Women over the lifespan. And that's another area that we want to intervene really early. And a lot of our studies show, and statistics prove it, that over time, like what you can get away with in your 20s and 30s and maybe 40s, when more women are birthing babies, as we age and our hormones change and fluctuate, and as a natural byproduct of aging, our tendons and ligaments might weaken, what you could get away with in your 20s, 30s, and early 40s, you can no longer get away with as we age. It's why the majority of pelvic organ prolapse surgeries, which, just as a brief kind of overview, pelvic organ prolapse is when your pelvic organs, so bladder, uterus, rectum, actually will sag into the vagina or droop out of. The majority of those surgical repairs are done on women in their 70s and 80s.
Wow.
So you might have like a grade 1 prolapse. You notice it from time to time, but you can get away with it. You don't pee your pants to the point that it's impacting your quality of life, but you're always aware of where the bathroom is. over time, if you haven't done the rehab, you haven't had it checked out, it likely will not fix itself. Mm-hmm. And so my mission is, if I'm working with you and you're telling me you have these symptoms, okay, we're going to do the rehab now. And I hope you never become that statistic. Like, you don't even know what track you were on with that symptom because you nipped it in the bud and we worked on it early on. That's what I'm really trying to do, is early intervention for anybody that's given birth, no matter whether you feel great or you feel, lower than low. Everybody needs rehab after they've given birth.
Mm-hmm. All right. So you're talking to me. So this is me. I've not dealt with any of this, and I've given birth to 2 babies, and basically, my OB has said, oh yeah, there's separation in, your stomach. And I'm not even going to attempt to accurately say diastasis recti. Thank you. I have my belly button apparently needs surgery. Otherwise, it's just going to be like this little herniated it's not an outie entirely, but there's just like a little, it's pushed through a little. I don't pee my pants to the point where I'm affected and I'm frantic about it, but it's annoying. It's something that happens. Like, this is so ridiculous that I'm sharing all of this on something that's going to go out into the world, but it happens every now and then, like a little trinkle or something. And I guess, you and I are sitting here because I came across your account on TikTok and I was like, whoa, I'm going through a lot of this. This mission is cool. I like this girl. But okay, so I'm seeing it and I'm going, I don't even know where to start. Like, where do we start now?
Great question. And thank you for sharing that. I know it can be, being vulnerable about your bodily functions. It is. It's scary, but it's also powerful, because when we share our stories, we give permission to other people to speak up as well. And when we speak up, we're more likely to take action. And what you've just described to me, and this isn't medical advice because you're not a patient of mine, but it sounds like you do have an abdominal separation to the point that you actually have a defect in that connective tissue in the midline, and you have a hernia. Not uncommon. We just like to keep this to ourselves as women because we want to be superwomen, and it's part of the martyrdom. But you have a real injury. And if I can digress for a second, I want to tell you, after I gave birth, because we gave birth in the same month to our first baby, my husband had hernia repair surgery 3 or 4 months later. Okay. So I'll get back to what you said in a moment. This is just a really powerful kind of teaching moment. So my husband went to a private hospital for 2 nights. He had his hernia repair surgery. He was fed a gourmet meal in a private room and offered a massage the next day. Okay.
Oh God, yes.
Now, anybody listening, we kind of called it like his C-section, not to be, cheeky, but like it was, right? It was a surgical procedure through his abdomen, and he was offered a massage the next day. And I'd like to know how many women who have given birth via C-section have been offered a massage the next day. DM me and let me know. Anyways, so back to your point, you have an injury. Now, the scope to which that hernia is affecting your day-to-day life sounds like it's manageable. And you've seen your OB who has said, maybe in the future, we're going to surgically repair this. To which I would ask you, would it be worth trying for 12 weeks to fix this conservatively with exercise so that you don't have to undergo a surgical procedure?
100%.
And okay. So that's a great answer, because not everybody's going to say yes, but the opportunity and option is there. Now, the second thing is, you are a mother of 2. You have a podcast. You are busy with life. I know probably pretty closely how busy you are with a 3 and a 1-year-old. Yeah. And so how do you carve out the time to rehabilitate appropriately? And here's the thing. We have been indoctrinated, especially as women, that the only way to make a change in our body composition and our physical selves is high intensity exercise, hours and hours a day, restrict your calories, starve yourself. And it's actually the exact opposite when it comes to seeing a physical change and healing an injury. So knowing all of this and knowing that claiming time for yourself when you are a mother is difficult, my solution in particular to this has been to have small doses of rehabilitation in the form of an app. So that way I am right there with you. I know how difficult it is to pack your kids up in your car, to show up for an appointment on time, have your kids on the floor with their toys or their tablet and try to focus on yourself. It is near impossible. So again, the solution in my mind to that was like a doctor in your pocket to have all sorts of different generalized rehabilitation. So you could sign up and you could see diastasis rehab or prolapse rehab or C-section rehab. And I'm also quite active in the DM so that people can say, hey, I gave birth 6 weeks ago via C-section. Where should I start? And I can point them in the right direction. Accessibility and affordability seriously are the two top components when it came to how can I get as many people as possible get this information in their hands. So instead of like $100 to see a pelvic floor physiotherapist, you pay less than $16 a month, and that's Canadian. So if you're in the US, it's a lot less money, and you have full access to it. More than that, because I'll be honest, I felt like I was plugging myself there, and that's not what I want to do. It's empowering.
I was going to ask you to talk about it anyway, so.
Okay, well, that's good. It's empowering you with the most effective things that you can do that are the most time effective, really, so that you can do it throughout your day. So yeah, you can pull out your yoga mat, get down on the floor, grab your glute loops and such and do the work. But also you can be sitting here right now, and I'm going to do it while I'm talking, and I'm going to lift up my pelvic floor, and then I'm going to release it. I'm going to think about narrowing my deep core inwards and releasing it. And I can do that while I'm driving, while I'm doing the dishes, while I'm on a podcast. And every rep is a deposit in my strength and healing bank account, so to speak.
Okay.
So yeah, we got to be flexible with how we provide the rehab.
Okay. So once you're in the app, is it like, hey, start here, step 1 and go through, here's, phase 2, like what can someone expect in buying in, really?
Well, thanks for asking. So I DM every single person that signs up.
Okay.
Not great for time management, but as like maybe I have a little bit of control freak in me. I really like to know every single person that is signing up. So I'll send everybody a DM and they'll let me know. I gave birth 6 weeks ago via C-section, and I'll ask them how they're feeling. And then I'll say, you would be best to start here.
Okay.
DM me again once you're done, and then I'll point you where to start after that. And I'm happy to do that because this for me this is a powerful tool to allow more women not only to have access to the physical rehab, but also educate as well. Yeah. So that as they're going through it and we're doing our dead bug exercise to try to heal our core weakness, I'm also talking about common things that they may experience so that if that does crop up in the future, they can say to me, Dr. Alli, I'm 8 months postpartum and I just fully peed my pants. What's going on? And in that case, I might say, okay, like we want to pair you with a pelvic floor physio in your region. Let's get you connected, right?
It's amazing.
It's not, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, it's really, I mean, the fact that you would even be in contact with everyone who joins is really pretty unexpected and awesome. I mean, I love that. And I had to ask because you mentioned it, and unfortunately, it's still where my brain goes. And I'm working on it. But you didn't mention it directly. What you mentioned was that women are made to believe that we have to do this like hardcore cardio. We've got to get the body back, quote unquote, and we've got to be really intense and this and that. Where is there, and where is it? Is there a connection between this rehab from a health standpoint and weight?
Great question. And I'm really glad you asked me about it because it's something that I'll be honest, I avoid talking about because it's uncomfortable. Weight loss is not the priority for GrowCo. So I'm very careful about my language. And the truth is that GrowCo, when you do it consistently and use it to its fullest capacity, you will likely see a change in your body composition. Probably weight is going to drop off because of it, or if you have the opposite problem, trouble gaining weight or gaining muscle, you will likely see that too. But there's so much more. I'm way more interested in other aspects of a mother than how much she weighs.
Yeah.
So that's not my mission. But to that point, I also don't want them feeling so uncomfortable and hopeless in their body, because feeling good in your skin is a really important part of physical, mental, and emotional healing. And so, Sass, I've really struggled with how do I infuse the weight loss talk into rehab at a place where I'm comfortable and people understand how to utilize it. So it might not be the perfect answer for you, but all in all, in this really vulnerable first year postpartum, my biggest message is that there are so many things that are stressful as a new mother. Healing is an inherent stress on the body. If you had a C-section or you had a birth that required a lot of stitches or interventions, your body is undergoing a stressful response at the cellular level to heal. Then you're not sleeping, which your body sees as a stress. Navigating the challenges of a newborn, the partnership element, like who you are as a human being has changed. Exercise can become a stressor if it's done too much, too soon, too fast. And it's for that reason that so many women make a new condition after they've given birth. So they give themselves an injury that they shouldn't have had, or they take so long to heal, or they give themselves a thyroid disorder. They start to gain weight because they're not managing their stress appropriately. And two of those really easy to change aspects would be eating in the proper dose for your body and your goals, and exercising in the proper dose for your life, your season right now. I own a CrossFit gym, right? I own a gym that is probably the highest intensity, most stressful type of fitness that you could ask a human being to do. And it's very effective for changing somebody's body composition if they're doing all of the other things right, which is sleeping and eating and managing their stress, drinking enough water. New mothers generally are not doing those things. Right. So going back to that level of exercise is typically doing more harm than good. So when it comes to weight loss, truly, and seeing a change in your body as a new mom, less is more, underline, italicized, exclamation mark.
Yeah. And it's, it all kind of feels like it goes together. Like you said, I mean, you're interested in, physically rehabbing these mothers, but there is also that mental and emotional aspect of just looking in the mirror and going, who is that? Whose body is that? And I haven't aired any of the episodes yet, but I have sort of a little series coming out because this I don't want to say issue, but really it's an issue for me. The issue of body image is big, and I'm having these conversations where, a few months ago I was having like anxiety attacks about being in public, and now I'm out there. I'm good. I'm not totally thrilled with how I look when I'm out there, but it's not stressful anymore.
Okay.
But I've recently discovered through sort of this process of trying to figure out my relationship with food, my relationship with exercise, sort of it all tying together, is that I'm not eating enough, ironically. I want to lose weight, but I'm not eating enough. And I'm bringing it up because I think for me, what's happening now after my second kid and a year and a half postpartum, I'm for the first time challenging what I previously held as really core beliefs about food, body, and exercise. And I really appreciate what you're doing because it really needs to be, and it, right? What's it? But the mission, the goal really needs to be more about that holistic, overall just health and happiness, and sort of the rest falls into place, right? Like, we have to heal the body and heal the mind before we can do all the other things, I don't know, it's a little tangent there.
I think
but
you said it exactly right. And it sounds like with what you've just shared with me is you're going through a process where you're disrupting your own thought patterning.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of females have tied up a lot of our value and self-worth in how we look. And so when you look dramatically different in a lot of cases when you're pregnant and when you're postpartum, it can really shake you to your core because of the thought patterning that you've had for so long. And it's a big reason why I never want to discount somebody who says, oh, I don't like the way they look, by saying, well, you just had a baby, because that's not helpful. Yeah. It's the truth. You did just have a baby. And of course your body is different because you grew a baby and you gave birth. But when you answer in that kind of generalized statement, you're not actually listening to what the person is saying, which is they might be saying something like, I'm having anxiety about going in public because none of my clothes fit and I don't feel at home in my body. It could be what they're really saying. There's no easy solution to that except to surround yourself with podcasts or news or Instagram or TikToks that push you in the direction of the vision for yourself. An easy thing to pick on is how obsessed the media is with showcasing a celebrity who gave birth last week. I remember reading this one. Katy Perry shows off her post-baby body on the beach, and then you go on to read just like what this person's interpretation, and you're like, or is Katy Perry just at the beach wearing a bathing suit, right? But if you're not in the right headspace and you're reading that, like, it could be very triggering. So there's a lot of complexities to it that are unique to the individual. But my hope is that I can say, well, you got to start somewhere, and let's start working on the inner work. We know that exercise is so powerful for mental and emotional health. And even just showing up for yourself for 10 minutes to take a deep breath, like the power of the breath work, which is a core pillar in GrowCo, not only for physical healing of things like diastasis recti or pelvic floor dysfunction, but honestly at like a parasympathetic level to de-stress, right? What do you do when you need to calm down?
Deep breath.
And if you can do that as a mother, you actually feel your entire body kind of melt the stress away. It might just be for a moment. I get it. But how can we continue to disrupt the thought patterning of I don't want to go out in public because I don't feel comfortable with, well, you know what? I'm just going to do it. And what's the worst that's going to happen? And so you take that quote unquote risk. You go out in public. Nothing bad happens, and then you keep taking those steps forward, and that is a form of healing as well. Lots to unpack.
Yeah, well, and it is really because it's so relevant to me now. There's some conversations that I'm more about education and curiosity, whereas this is like, no, okay, I actually need to process, it's more, it's hitting close to home.
Well, and it's a journey, right? I've said it before, but healing is not linear. Anything, right? You sprain your ankle, you're healing from thought patterning. Nothing is linear. So you might make progress and you might take a step back. And let me share with you, last night, for whatever reason, I got out of the shower and I'm standing in front of my mirror, and I looked at like this little stretch mark that I have above my belly button, and I was like, I pulled it up to see what my body would look like without it there. And then I got into bed and I was like, that was stupid. Why can't you just be so happy that you had the opportunity to birth 2 babies and that's your little reminder, right? And it was just an intentional thought pattern disruption.
Yeah.
And second, a core value of mine is making sure that with my daughter, who is my youngest, that we have the same birthday. You have a son born that day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That I don't do that in front of her. That she doesn't catch me like looking at my stomach in the mirror or turning to the side, because what I do and what I model is how she's going to create her own set of values and beliefs about herself. So I have to be intentional, not just for me, but also for my family.
Totally. Yeah. So part of this and part of making the time and carving out this time for self, right? How do you, as Dr. Alli, do that? How do you make the time, and what are you doing to self-care?
Great question. And I loved when I was looking at your website, you had something like, people talk about self-care, but how, right? It's the but how. So unique to me is my husband and I had a conversation, and also he knows me better than anybody. And he knows that physical movement is a game changer for my mood and for my health. And so near daily in the 4th trimester, we would find a time where I would go for a walk by myself. Right. And that probably was all I did, plus some GrowCo for the first 6 months. I'm a runner. I own a gym. I didn't touch much of that for the first 6 months. But what I did do is ask for what I need. So if there was a few days where I didn't get time for myself, because not every day is perfect or goes according to plan, then I would say to him, hey, Jordan, I need tomorrow to go for a walk. What time do you think works for everybody? My mom also was living with us for a short period of time, which was wonderful. And she was part of that too. She would know, hey, Alli, give me Audra, you go for a walk. And I could like feel with every step that I took just how much better I felt. And I would come back ready to show up as a mom and a wife and a CEO and Alli Cain again, asking for what I needed. I've never been shy to do it. And I'm thankful that my family has always worked with me to give me what I need. I also recognize that not everybody may have that luxury, but if it really, really matters to you, you've got to find a way. You've got to find a way. It might be like finding a gym in town that has a daycare, and there might be a charge to it, but could you forgo your coffee or your wrap to have that dollar and allocate it towards the daycare so you can have some time for yourself? And see what that feels like, right? Create your own method for getting the time that you need to do what you need to do.
You talk a little bit on your TikTok about having a postnatal plan. What do you recommend for women? What's the recipe for that plan?
Well, you know what? One really great way that's free to do it is find some podcasts that talk about postpartum, right? Something like your podcast, my podcast, so that you can turn it on. It can be on in the background. It doesn't require your full attention, but the words are still penetrating and things resonate. And I will share with you one thing that probably changed the course of my marriage. Because I did have a postnatal plan, but you can't exactly plan for what you don't know. You can do your best. It's just like a birth plan, right? Have a plan, but be flexible, right? And my husband and I, we were just fighting, and it was my fault. He would come home from work. I'd be home with Logan all day, and I'd be like, Alli, don't say something mean. Don't say something mean. He'd open the front door, and I'd be like, what the heck took you, probably not that word, what the heck took you so long? You said you'd be home 30 minutes ago. And he would just be like, bless him, he's just like, he'd be like, okay, yeah, you're right, I should have told you. And I was listening to a podcast, and it said spousal disconnect after you have a baby is so common, because here I am questioning everything. I'm like, I love him so much, but I can't stop myself from pouring out these horrible things. And he's an amazing partner, but I haven't told him that in weeks. And I heard that. I was like cleaning the house. Logan was asleep, and I heard that line. And I was like, okay, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
This is something that everybody is going through. And so I shared that with him. And I think I said, like, I think what we're going through, Jordan, is just spousal disconnect, where you don't actually know what it feels like to be home all day. And I am so used to having free time, and something I'm still working on is like my self-worth has always been tied up in work and in finances. And all of a sudden that wasn't part of my day to day. And that's how it was coming out. So literally listening to a podcast, probably, do I want to say save my marriage? It might have.
Yeah. No, I love that. Yeah, I do, because one of the things that I'm struggling with this, even this platform, is how to reach mothers and women, before it's too late, in a sense, and there really is the optimist in me wants to say it's never too late, right? But I understand, as being a person who was not particularly maternal, who didn't really like kids, and just was going on the assumption that everyone says I'll love my own. And, I wanted a family, don't get me wrong, but I was never like, oh, let me hold your baby. Like, I wasn't into it. And so I read as much as I needed to read during pregnancy to make sure that I was healthy and the baby was as healthy as we could be. I didn't want to be a jerk about it, but I wasn't interested in all the other stuff. And I was completely shocked postpartum at what life is like, what my body was like, what everything you're saying, the spousal disconnect, all of it. And I'm like, how do I connect with who I was during pregnancy 1 and go, just listen? But I love it. Just like, it's that simple. Just listen to a podcast about postpartum. Just one, even just one, because then it might get you to listen to a second, or even just the one will give you some clue that, oh, you know what? I don't know entirely what to expect, but almost knowing that expecting nothing, or expecting perfect Instagram, Pinterest bliss of matching robes and, bows in your hair, like, it's not all there is. It's not what it's about. It's taking care of yourself and your health, and really looking at your relationships. And gosh, I am so thankful that you even said, that you ask for what you need, and you've never been shy about it, because that is something I hear all the time. I feel like a burden. I don't want to ask for help, or it's going to be, we lose our superwoman cape if we ask for help. And I wish more mothers got the sit down powwow of it's okay before they're in the 4th trimester, because you're in the 4th trimester, you can barely see straight, let alone be thinking like, have I asked for help lately? It's like, no, you're just trying to get through the day, So I appreciate everything you said, because it's so worth saying as many times as we need to say it,
Well, you're exactly right. And I find myself repeating myself often. And I recognize that mothers are a self-replenishing resource, right? So we have to keep saying this, because every single second a new mother is born, and hopefully what we're saying will find our way to her. And like you said, I wish that too. Like I truly wish, actually, back to the app, when I first designed the app, I started it right from week 1, right? I was like, week 1, you've just given birth. This is what to expect. This is the type of movement that maybe you can try. But I recognized that I was getting people of all lengths of time since they'd given birth. So I revamped it. And I had to change my mindset around that, because at least they're finding me now. Maybe they went through it 3-4 months ago, but at least they're here now, and maybe they can pass on the information so we find somebody sooner. Storytelling is so powerful. And sometimes people will say, aren't you scared, or aren't you worried that you're going to scare somebody by sharing these things? And To which I say, like, that's up for interpretation. All I can do is come from a heart-centered approach of wanting to make a change and help people. How they perceive anything that I'm saying or you're saying or whatever it may be is up to their level of understanding and their perception. I can't change that.
Right.
My hands are tied when it comes to that.
Right.
Is that going to stop me?
Yeah.
Heck no, because I know that we're making a change.
Yeah.
So we got to keep sharing our stories, talking about this, exploring it, and know that it will find the ears and the brain and the heart of the people that need it.
Yeah, well, and that is reminding me that it speaks to then the value in establishing the community, because someone might see it and think and get scared and might hear it and go, oh my God. But that's where you hope that the foundation of your community inspires that person to then reach out and say, whoa, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed by this. Talk me off the ledge. I had someone yesterday reach out and say that she listened to an episode I did with a therapist who works with teenagers, and she doesn't have kids yet. And she messaged me. She goes, okay, so I'm kind of terrified. I just listened to this episode. Like, it's also really great, right? And I'm like, yes, but it's building the trust within your community, establishing yourself as that trustworthy, lack of a better word, leader of your community. Whenever I say leader, I think of like Star Wars and things like that. I don't know why, but and I think that's where I see, for you at least, the value in how connected you are to the users on your app, and I'm sure on your other platforms. And I want to ask you, I'm newer to TikTok. I'm not newer to consuming it. I'm newer to producing content for it. And I'm curious, do you find on there that there is a sense of community, or is it more just content flowing in and out?
I got TikTok when I gave birth to Audra, so February 2020, and I was a consumer as well. And I was actually really blown away with just the level of creativity.
Totally.
And how I felt more connected, or like I knew somebody better than I felt to Instagram, where it did feel more like the perfectly curated captions and pictures. And so when I started posting on TikTok and started building a following, I really did feel like there was more interaction and meaningful engagement. And actually, the highest level of users of my app right now found me on TikTok. Yeah. And I even feel as a human being that I can show up and be a bit more authentic on TikTok than I can on Instagram. Like, I can trip over my words or not have a perfectly placed text box, and people are still finding value in what I'm sharing. And then sometimes it leads to like offline messaging that really feels powerful. And like you said, it's like, oh, I've been following you, I've been consuming, I've started to like you, know you, and trust you, which is a huge thing. And as a doctor of chiropractic, I was trained and I am used to doing work in this one-on-one capacity. And when you only have 30 minutes with a patient and your hands are on them and you're doing physical rehab, I've actually felt like I can do a better job of helping people through my social media platforms, because I can educate, or I can create an entire series for free, as opposed to when I'm able to speak. And it's a crazy thing to kind of admit that I feel like I'm doing a better job educating on TikTok than I am with my patients. But it's just simply a time thing and an ability thing. I'm a big fan of TikTok, actually. I've learned a ton, and I've really, really valued connecting with other people as well.
Yeah. That's amazing. It's so funny. I feel like I've told my husband now, anytime you hear me say, oh, so I was reading an article, it's really, I saw it on TikTok.
Yeah. I'm doing work right now, honey. You're on TikTok. Well, I'm learning a lot.
I am. I really am. I'm learning social media tips. I'm learning about my pelvic floor. I'm learning all kinds of things.
Right? Yeah. Just yesterday, I put a post up about all the different types of pelvic organ prolapse, and it might be the first time people have actually seen, oh, I feel like I'm sitting on a hard ball. I might actually have like a real condition. And like, how cool is it to know that that might inspire them to go take action, book an appointment with whomever their practitioner is, and get healing. I might never know that that happened, but the thought that it could is enough to keep going and building content and sharing our stories and information.
And I'm sure it has happened. I mean, I saw the one about the butt with the heart.
Yes.
That one is really, that's awesome. I mean, that's never been explained to me before, ever.
And think about that. So back to kind of like wrap up and tie up everything we've talked about. So when I explained that this body shape can be a compensatory pattern due to like a major abdominal surgery, how many women out there do you think were like, oh, so like this part of me, my lower abdominals that haven't felt normal, and I've tried every diet in the book and every workout class, actually might be due to my C-section, and then again took action in a different way and saw better results? How cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. It is, because we're not taught these things. It's on us to, it's on each mother in the busiest time of her life to start doing research. I mean, it's ridiculous, but it's also, what's so great about it is that most of us don't even know what we need to research. So if you come across it and you just see a heart shape around a butt and you go, my butt looks like that, you go, wait, what is this about? You know?
The algorithm knows. Actually, what you just said there is really interesting. Yeah, it's on us to do the research to find out the things that we don't even know. But again, that's why it's so powerful to be sharing these stories as often as possible and using our voice on the platforms to make it easier to A, tell a mom what she might not know, and B, allow her to explore the information that is easily consumable when you use TikTok or Instagram or, email newsletters and such.
Yeah. In working with the women through GrowCo and on TikTok and just connecting with so many women now, has anything that you can think of really surprised you?
As I get deeper and deeper into this work and I become more aligned in my life with other professionals doing this kind of work, I have to constantly remind myself that there are people out there that don't know. Right? And come back to the basics. It's easy as a healthcare professional to try and get more and more and more specialized and forget about the basics. But the basics are the foundation for healing. And I need to spend more time talking about them because that is where people need to start. So an example of this is I talk about supplements, right? I talk about postnatal supplements, which is an important part of healing. But it's not the be all and end all. So if that's all you think you need to do, you're missing the magic of postnatal rehab. So again, just coming back to the basics more often. Actually, Sass, I wrote a letter to myself when I first graduated as a chiropractor. And the letter it said, remember what it feels like to be new. Because there's going to be a time in your career where you are going to perform your 10,000 or 1 millionth adjustment. But that person, it's their first. Yeah. And you can't forget to approach people the same way, even though you're an expert now or you're specialized. And that's something that I come back to often, especially when it comes to new moms. Again, where I might have said the same thing 100 times in that day because I saw 100 new moms. She's still a new mom and she still deserves that level of education not to be glossed over.
Yeah, like preach. I just literally had that conversation with my pediatrician 2 days ago.
Did you say to them, you need to treat me as somebody that I need to understand? Like, I know you get this. I know you know it inside out, but I don't know this.
Exactly. And it's actually, unfortunately, just to clarify, it's not my actual pediatrician I have the issue with. It's everyone else in the office. Whenever I pick up the phone and I call the nurse, this so-and-so, this is going on with this one or this, their response is like, well, did you do this? Did you do that? It's like, I don't need to be shamed by the medical profession. I'm going through all this for the first time. Even something as simple as I needed paperwork for the preschool for my daughter. she's my older one, and I called the office and I'm this and that, and they're like, well, did you send it to us to this address? I'm like, no, because this is the first time I'm doing paperwork with you. It's
Yeah.
like, dude, I don't know what I'm doing. I need you to do your job. I'll do mine. And I say this to the doctors. I say this to the preschool. I say this to everybody. I'll play by your rules, but I need to know what they are. Like,
It's a great way to say it.
we just
Yeah.
have to, you got to give me what I need in order for me to make your life easier. Because right now, all you're doing is making my life harder. Like, it's so infuriating.
Empathy in the healthcare profession could be utilized more.
Yeah.
And doctors and healthcare professionals do need a reminder that, yes, this is the 1,000th time that you've done a C-section, but to this mom, it's her very first. And you need to change your language up, change your approach up if possible.
Right.
And it should be possible in most situations, pending an emergency. And it goes a long way. It goes a long way to the experience. It goes a long way to supporting your mental health. I'll tell you, in my clinic, when we have a new mom come in for her postnatal assessment, or we see newborns as well, we always overbook time because 9 times out of 10, mom is late. Mm-hmm. And the last thing that she needs is for me to be like, you were late. Your appointment was like, she doesn't need that. She knows she's late. She's stressed. She did her freaking best to get there.
Right.
And a business person listening could say, well, doesn't that hurt your books? Well, you know what? It's a real human being who deserves my real time and attention and love. And if it hurts my books, that's something I'm willing to swallow.
And you know what? You create a customer then who has a good experience. And refers you to someone else or keeps coming back. She shows up and she gets the riot act from the front desk about being late. What are the chances she's going to tell all her girlfriends or her sister to go see you? So, business, no. Oh, okay. Anyway, and Dr. Alli, is there anything that you would have asked yourself that I didn't think to, or anything that you want to really leave the listeners with today?
It is so worth it. It does require you to level up, to say, yeah, I'm worth this rehab. I'm worth asking for what I need. Mm-hmm. It's not always easy at first, but it's a series of reps, right? Just like you think of doing a bicep curl a couple of times, the more you do the workout, the more you're going to see the definition, the more you flex your self-care muscle in your brain, or you ask for what you need muscle, the easier it will get. Mm-hmm. And the best part about it is you will transform into the person or the feeling that you so desperately are craving to feel like at home in your body once again.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for all of your expertise. It was a really great conversation. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, what'd you think? I love her outlook and approach. And, I hear all of this again and think it is nuts that rehab, along with therapy, aren't standard parts of the postpartum healing journey. Like, why? Like, why not? But anyway, I have a confession. And I wonder if you heard it too, if you've been following along with me on every episode. Hopefully you're starting to get to know me and you know where I'm at with a lot of these topics, right? So, but while re-listening to this episode, I could hear, and obviously I just know where my headspace was at the time because I am me, and I know that it was not the best. I was really struggling with my postpartum body image, as I still am, but this conversation happened at the end of last year when I really hadn't done much, quote unquote work in terms of my postpartum body image rather. And I absolutely know I was hoping Dr. Alli would say, GrowCo is how you will lose the baby weight. And I appreciate her so delicately answering my questions around this and sharing her own back and forth with how to handle the topic of weight loss and healing in relation to the work she does. But I know what I was asking. I was asking and desperately hoping she was going to say, This is your quick fix. I did leave the conversation feeling rejuvenated by the idea of I'm worth it. My body is worth healing. I really did. And so I bought in and downloaded the GrowCo app. After a couple of months of paying for it and admittedly not using it, I eventually canceled it. And let me be very clear, this is to no fault of Dr. Alli or the GrowCo app. What I know now is that I needed to heal my mind before my body. I resisted the app because I kind of knew it wasn't a quick fix to weight loss, and that's not the point of it. And I also now know that despite, again, my desperate hopes, that there is no quick fix. So we talk about this on the show. We talk about healing our mind and emotions. And I think I even say something like, yeah, like this is great. Let's heal physically before we even worry about, the weight loss and anything else. And hearing that statement from myself also clued me into where I was mentally at the time of this recording. I wanted to avoid doing the mental and emotional work so badly. I thought I could push through under the guise of healing my physical body to avoid it. And, I don't know. I just, all right. So, anyway, in the last week or so, I have felt a true change, a change I honestly didn't know was possible. And it's happening in a way that makes me want to bottle it up and share it with anyone who is stuck where I've been for so long. That stuckness of knowing what you want and what you need to do to heal yourself, to feel better, to feel content, but feeling that block, like not being able to do all those things. The feeling of being in your own way and knowing that with 100% certainty that you are the one in the way. It's a horrible feeling. And I'm inclined to say, if you know, you know. And, because one day in my book, I'll do a much better job at painting this picture for anyone who's not resonating with this. But as with most things, when it's in the crux of happening and you're really in it, it's often hard to describe. So bringing this back to Dr. Alli, I will say this. I will 100% buy in and download her app again in the future. I know it's there for me when I'm ready, and healing my physical body is so important to me. And having experienced her app for a short time, I know the level of thought, care, attention, and ease Dr. Alli's program provides for moms to heal themselves. It's a wonderful community, and if you're ready, I encourage you to follow her on social media and buy into the app. It's affordable, and it's there for you to consume at your own pace. This is going to be different for everyone. For me, I could not engage in a program that had to do with my body that was not intended for weight loss. In my mind, it felt like a waste of time. And I hope I am making my message clear that it is not about GrowCo. It's about where I was. It's about where my mental, health and my emotions were around being postpartum. You might feel differently. You might feel like I need to heal my body before I can do any of the mental emotional work. You might be able to do more of it simultaneously. I like to work very linearly. And even though Dr. Alli reminds me that healing is not linear, and really, if I think about it, I know that I've been doing a lot of this work simultaneously. I know, but the way my brain thinks is like 1, 2, 3. And particularly at the time of that recording, all I wanted was for someone to be able to give me the magic recipe to lose weight. And it's just not out there, and it's not possible. So I think sometime soon, I can feel it coming. I can feel it. There will be a time where I can engage in healing my physical body without having the pressure of it also having to be a weight loss program. Because it's so not what it is. And it's so beautiful that it's not that. So thank you, Dr. Alli, for doing the incredible work you're doing for all women and moms. I know that you're making a difference in so many individual lives, but that you will also continue to make a difference on a much grander scale. And I'll get there. I'm coming for you, GrowCo. I'm coming for you, Dr. Alli. And again, this will look different for everyone. If you're ready, I don't care if you're 2 weeks postpartum, 2 months postpartum, 2 years postpartum. If you feel like your physical body could use some help and some rehab and some healing, go check her out. Her TikTok, her social media, her Instagram are all fabulous. Her website even is a great resource. Get involved. All right, that's it. Goodbye.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. Sass Says is a production of Luann Nigara, Inc. This podcast is meant to be educational and not meant to replace professional therapy or professional medical attention. To learn more about today's show and what's new in my world, head over to sasssays.com. Thanks so much. Talk later.